checking in on these two little cuties as they take to the forest. And SAS, of course, is going to be in the red playing as the Ottomans. Remember, that's WNTD_SAS. That might be the more familiar name you guys know him by. He recently changed his name to make it simpler. Because I think he noticed that every time I cast, I choose to call him WNTD. So instead, he wanted to be called Sassy. And then, well, someone is a sassy little lad himself, as we'll all be too familiar. Pop Wen. You can already tell he's sassy by the name, but who could it be? Pop Wen for who? It is for Beastie. This is Beastie QT's second place account on the leaderboards at the time of recording. Remember, the first place is Beastie QT, second place is Pop Wen, and then third is D's what? Maybe he's mind blown as well. I doubt it, but I told him, actually, he needs to do a 10 days, 10 accounts, top 10 challenge. Actually, I shouldn't have told him that because I'm not a big fan of smurfing. But let's focus on this little blue lad who's already up in the top 10. These games are, of course, being played live on the Pop server right now. A test server for the upcoming Season 4 patch, which should arrive, I think, towards the end of January is their intent. And we are checking out two civs that got... oh, kind of on opposite ends of the alterations, right? So, like, Ottomans were barely touched, barely even scathed. In fact, if anything, it was mainly bug fixes. And then, on the other side, you've got the English that were overhauled in a lot of ways. So, English's early game and late game got buffed. Like, there's no other way to actually describe it. It got buffed. If I recall correctly, there was some tweaks there to the late game to make it slightly weaker. The main one would be that now the enclosures you get in the Imperial Age that give a trickle of gold trigger every 5 seconds instead of 3.5, which means as an English player in late game, you get less gold. Also, network of castles and citadels did get nerfed. It used to be higher. It used to be at 20% and then 40% tax speed buff, which is crazy because at release it was like 50 and 25%, 50%, although back then the numbers were inconsistent across units. Now they've reduced it all the way down to 15% and then 30% with network of citadels. So Civ has been nerfed, but in some ways it's been buffed. And this is one way, with Abbey of Kings. Love to see Beastie going for this. He has already been doing some experimentation. I probably shouldn't be telling you guys, but there are some interesting bugs with the Abbey of Kings. For example, did you know that although the rules do say there can be only one king of England, if you convert another England's king, technically, you can have more kings. I think that's how that works. I mean, I know that's how it works in game, but apparently that's how it works historically. You know, if you're unhappy with your king, just bring the previous king who was Catholic in. Bring the other king from the future that doesn't believe in either. Let's get the Protestant king in. How about the Anglican king as well? Get them all together. How about a Zoroastrian king? Because that's apparently what you can do. For those that don't know, if you use the Wallalol on an enemy king, you can actually get your own king. And if you're English, you can essentially be past the limit. I think BC had a game on his stream where he had 5 kings running around together. And I've been talking a lot about this king, but right now people are like puzzled, question mark looks, the memes being popped up. What king do? King is a knight that you can build for 300 resources total, so more expensive than knight. But the upside is that this king provides a healing aura around him to any units outside of combat. On top of that, he scales based on age. Like the Khan. So he'll get more damage, more health, more everything. Pretty damn good deal. Especially considering that it's a cavalry unit, you can always walk away. And there you go. So 35 seconds, 150 food, 150 gold to get him. That is definitely going to probably be a priority coming out for Beastie. Even if you don't build any other units to go with the knight, it's a raiding unit in itself, right? So if you find an unguarded line, you can punish it. We haven't really looked at SAS's opening so far, but that's because SAS is playing a Civ that basically didn't change, right? Like, the alterations made were more things like your villagers getting stuck in bushes when they spawn no longer happens. Everything else has more or less stayed the same in the Civ, which, by the way, is bonkers. I don't know how meta has been completely untouched. I like that in some ways they didn't nerf meta outright, but I think some of the exploitable details with the meta, such as the fact that you can essentially click metas across the battlefield and get a movement speed on this as if it was in formation, probably shouldn't exist in the game. So there are definitely some weird bugs you can exploit. But now let's focus on this badass. Look at him. There he is. 220 health, 16 damage. Now, that's an interesting detail there, by the way. He has a great sword. Where's his lance? He's meant to have a lance, folks. There it is. So I guess, yeah, he just casually runs around with the sword out, looking like a badass, as you do. But this guy, remember, the way it works, whenever he's not in combat and units around him are not in combat, 2 health every 1 second. Which actually, in fairness, was essentially recycling an idea from the campaign. It's kind of nice that they brought that in. So for those that played the campaign, one of the leaders you get in one of the missions, as the English, I believe it was, has the ability to heal units around him. Although in that, I believe you can do it to them in combat, which is broken. Keep in mind, this is an outright buff to Abbey of Kings. You still get the healing around the Abbey itself. And if I'm not mistaken, you can combine the two because it's Kingly Presence and Abbey Healing. These are 2 separate auras, which means that if you have the king at home with the Abbey of Kings, you're actually going to be healing your units outside of combat by 8 health a second. Pretty nuts when you think about it. Especially if you're doing like these cycle raids between defending and attacking as with knights in the Castle Age. And that, by the way, is the biggest change that's going to come from this build. Abbey of Kings was always seen as a Castle Age rush type build. But now, with the addition of the king, they've essentially just buffed the build where you prioritize Castle Age rush into knight spam. Well, love the fact that he was going for the TC play, and love the fact that he's using the short bows. This is actually a nuisance for SAS. He has to commit, but this one knight is actually so painful to deal with. Notice he's already got a damage supply here. And the heal is coming out. Like, this is the other awkward detail for him, right? Like, when you're attacking the wrong villager, the others are going to repair between the assaults. In fact, he will find another villager for his trouble, but so far a pretty high price paid, I'd say. Right, 2 villagers, he delays the timing. Behind this, though, SAS is not really getting any big eco exploitation himself. He is at least playing pocket ecos, which I like to see. But he's been unable to stop Beastie from getting the desirable TC drop. It seemed greedy, and it was, but the reason why Beastie gets away with what is kind of becoming a rare sight with town centers being so aggressively away from the base is because of the Abbey of Kings opening with the king. Great identification by him. It's tough as well, because like, how do you kill this unit quickly? Sapai, you're just not going to cut it. Maybe if you have like 10 of them. I think the only way you ever kill this knight, if you are SAS, is if you get like 30+ military units and you're getting a big clash, or you get, say, 8 to 10 Sapahi, and you body block him, trap him in, essentially. Even then, it's going to take you quite a while to burn him. You might even kill one of your Sapahi and break out at that point. Dude, this guy is doing some work with that one knight. Is Beastie thinking about the White Tower build here? I actually quite like the idea of White Tower. For those that don't know, White Tower got substantially buffed. Hugely buffed. It's a very unique landmark compared to what it was now. So, for one thing, the White Tower now researches and produces units 2 times speed instead of its normal 1 times. Really big buff here, considering that affects things like boiling oil, spring order placements, and also the English keeps build any unit out of them. So you can actually function like a double siege workshop. It actually offsets a very big issue for the English, which is transitioning to siege has always been irksome for them. So looking forward to seeing if that's going to be the idea here. Usually when someone does go for a second TC like this, they will go for the White Tower. One of the big reasons used to be you need the extra defense due to your greed. I wonder if BC is going to be tempted towards King's Palace, though, because of the buff it also got. So King's Palace used to be a 2,500 HP landmark. It got buffed on this patch to be 5,000. We'll see which way he wants to go. I know which way SAS is going to go. It was very clear from the moment he didn't build additional TCs and kept limited units in the field. We are getting a Castle Age rush out the Ottomans. The English, on the other hand, due to that aggression that came out, and that snipe on a few villages, has actually slowed down Beastie quite a bit. I like what I'm seeing here. So Beastie, while he's got a little bit of time, is getting out the gold. He's got to be fast about this. I imagine the plan is if he can get enough gold together to begin the tech up, probably going to be dropping the White Tower right here next to the stones. Which is not a bad idea, right? It gives you 2 stone outcroppings, which can allow for additional keeps. For now, he needs to get some aggression on his side. So, Horseman marching forward with the knight. scout has baited the army away from base. Now, SAS in the middle of a tech up, and guess what? BC knows exactly where it's happening. He's making his way to the backside. Mehmet Imperial Armory is about to be spotted. He knows, he sees. SAS is going to be delayed. Great pounce by BC. And immediately SAS, with his army away from home chasing that scout, they have to cancel and move back. BC will continue the assault. If he delays this by half a minute max, that's good enough. And in fact, it looks like he's going to tick that box exactly. So far, it's been like, what, 20 seconds? Might even get a few villages for his trouble. Great strike by Beastie. And this delay is important, folks. Notice the difference maker here. It's almost enough resources to give Beastie to begin his own tech up. If you can get one more cycle in that pulls SAS away, box is fully ticked. But seems there's a few too many Sipahi, he'll have to back away. Remember, these Sipahi are phenomenally fast due to the meta formation. Since then, we'll just fully back off. I did hear the trumpet go. Love this play from SAS. He delayed getting the Imam point, but now invests into it as soon as the castle stage is complete. So that's going to be 2 relics secured for free. Or is it? Okay, I did not notice the BC doubled down on the horseman count. He's back in. Now, tech up is complete, so SAS should be able to weather the storm. But he can only build knights right now. So he can't get the cheap, fast counter of spears. It's going to take a little bit of time to escalate, and that time is what BC's trying to buy right now. He's almost got the food and gold required to go into Castle Age. The question now is whether he gets it without any punishment. Right now, he's leading the enemy army back towards his base, so it will suggest that punishment will be coming his way. Maybe he can be fast enough about this. The White Tower's going up, 14 working at it. And not many knights right now. In fact, if you get close enough to your base, you get that attack speed aura up. I could see a world in which BC holds here. Instead, he's kind of throwing away the villages. A few of them, at least. We'll pull them back now. Holding the choke point. I actually prefer this approach. Right, just don't let them spread out. Don't let them go around the back for the villagers. Instead, the villagers are going to start attacking. A nice pinch there. Look at the counterattack. BC's done it. He gets up into Castle Age. Now, the important detail behind this, he already has double stable. He has also got the ability to heal all of these heavily injured horsemen. Folks, I want you to take a look at the English right now and pretend they're Delhi. It's easy for me to do because I'm playing Delhi runs in Europa Universalis 4, but just imagine it. Because that's what's happening here. Look at the heal from the Abbey of Kings. All these horsemen are operational. He's probably going to upgrade them to vet horsemen at this point. In fact, wow, he's just going horsemen and nothing else. Now, I expected some knights in the mix, but I actually don't mind this idea. If you get enough horsemen, then SAS can never fight you. And then you can transition to knights afterwards. And the crazy part is this is also prepping to counter the next thing that SAS has coming for him, which is, of course, free siege. Mangonels are going to get sniped out by these horsemen easy peasy. Another awkward issue you have now if you're SAS is even with this meta movement speed, you're moving at the same speed as horsemen. You're never able to truly gap close because remember, the moment you charge, you're going to lose... Wait, what? Did they... What? Did they change? No, okay. Okay, I think that was like maybe a UI bug. So the way meta is meant to work is the moment that you attack, you're meant to lose the formation. So you lose the movement speed bonus. But it seems like the Ottoman units are somewhat holding on to it. I'm pretty sure 2.23 wasn't the default for charge. Have I just never noticed this before? Nope. I'm not sure I haven't noticed this before. It definitely feels like it lingers longer. So those that don't understand like how formation behavior works, you're only in a formation if you're not attacking something. The moment you're in attack behavior, you lose formations. So the fact that these knights keep the charge movement speed from the meta is weird. They should, as you saw, be at 1.94 movement speed, not 2 point something. That's very exploitable, actually, for a knight spamming Ottoman player. Probably will be fixed in the future, because that's not working as intended. Yeah, see? 1.94. That's what it should be. But if he was to shuffle them into formation, chase after them normally, and then use A-click, they'd be buffed up to 2+ movement speed, which would always guarantee a lance assault. It's pretty broken, to be honest, if used correctly. Requires a lot of micro, though. Can't help but feel that BC is much better off in this situation, though. I mean, SAS went for this Castle Age build and hasn't really done anything with it yet so far. Now the crossbowman added in. Oh, hello, Sunshine. Heel's coming out. Don't know if it's going to be good enough. The Imam's trying to help. One more attempt is going to be a fat fail. And notice the meta gets sniped out. Barely escapes. Frontline has been broken, though. I'm surprised the crossbows did not do a little bit more, but the attack speed boost from the meta. Prime on display there, folks. Allows him to wipe Beastie's army. Beastie, after all is said and done, doesn't really have anything prepped behind this. He is finally adding in knights of his own, though. And remember, he does have this white tower working for him. That's where the crossbows have been coming from. This is essentially a double military production build. Like, essentially, it's the council hall. Because remember, they changed the council hall now so that it allows you to do anything in archery range with twice the speed. So here's a question for you folks. Do you feel like you ever want council hall now, or do you feel like you just get better council hall in Castle Age? I honestly think like BC's build is a better way. This might actually just become the standardized for English. Double TC and use the knight to defend early. Like, if someone wants to hardcore commit to shutting it down, they could, but then they're losing their own scalability. If you're up against a Civ that wants Castle Age for some reason or another, I think this build is very exploitable. But for now, SAS is the one doing the exploitation. Well, Laurel, try and stop them, but good luck with that. So many knights already, up to 18 total for SAS. But still, trailing by 16 villagers behind Beastie. So even with what he idles, he more or less just puts them neck and neck. Now, of course, the Ottomans do have the edge of passive reduction. So will, in that regard, be ahead. But keep in mind, like, if you want to start nickel and diming, the English have increased gathering rates on these farms. Substantial ones at that. 25% extra per farm, and these farms cost half the price. You have to feel a lot better about Beastie's position if SAS can't kill a TC or kill 20+ villagers. So far, he's been unable to do either of those things. I believe the walls are going up as well, so BC's going to make it much harder to get into his base. One more raid attempt. Just about keeps it open, but I don't know, man. I feel like SAS has to go, right? You've done a great job of getting into the base, but now you just stopped doing anything. And he's letting the walls go up. I think, actually, SAS is kind of now losing momentum by doing this. He was in a very good position, but he had no way of converting. And I get where he's coming from, right? Like, diving TC, diving White Tower, double arrow fire that the English have, you don't want to be doing it. You don't want to be laying into choke points either, where you can't fully use your night lines. But because of those details, he's now essentially allowed Beastie to get his late game. With these walls going up, the farms being saturated on the backside, I'm pretty sure Beastie could just target Imp and not come out until then if he wants. I'll tell you what needeth be undone. The state of this game if you're SAS. If he had like a second TC, maybe I could feel it, but Knights alone isn't going to cut it. Mangoes alone as your siege, not going to help you break in. Like, he needs 2 trebs. Might be too slow, though. And even if you start to assault this White Tower, remember, it's a landmark, so to repair it, it only costs wood. That was one of the big crazy things I noted about the changes to the English. Their defensive capabilities actually got boosted despite the changes to the network of castles. Between the White Tower being buffed and the fact it costs wood to repair, and Barkship being phenomenally buffed the way it was and the fact it costs wood to repair, it's much easier for an English player to hold on in a game than it was before. At least past Feudal Age. The Feudal ground might be a little bit more shaky than the past. I don't think so. I actually think they got buffed there as well. It's kind of weird, actually, the fact that if you look across the board, even with the things that got nerfed, I'd say overall, at every stage in the game, English feel buffed. But they were already like top 3 civs in the game. Yeah, that was a bit worrying. In fairness, Ottomans did get buffed as well, by the way. I mentioned that a few bugs got fixed. The one big thing I should also highlight that got fixed is, remember, healing got nerfed in combat, so now you only heal for half the value you used to. But, interesting thing, remember that these imams, when you take the Vizier point, they do this. They heal for 1 health every second in an AoE. That actually didn't get nerfed by the combat healing. So while combat healing went from 8 a second to 4 a second, this AoE heal from fieldwork actually is still a hard 1 health a second. So overall, an actual buff for Ottomans, especially if you're in like heal-on-heal warfare. And definitely look forward to seeing how Ottoman players are going to utilize this, considering they were already starting to pivot towards the Imam build. For those that aren't aware of it, it's an early investment you can make with your Vizier points. It spawns 2 Imams immediately at your town center, even if you're in Feudal Age or Dark Age. And they function like a normal Imam would, but with the added benefit of healing an AoE around them of 1 health a second. I think the AoE is something like from this crossbowman to the berry bush, if I'm not mistaken. Night Mass on the flank. Has been reacted to, but remember what BC's doing here. He doesn't actually care about winning this right now. I love how he peels the knight back as if he's actually playing Regicide. Can't let him die. But behind this, the real goal is being achieved. He's ready for Imperial Age, and SAS is not. You can see how badly SAS wants to fight, but he's just not been actually manipulating the Knight Charge that much. I wonder if SAS realizes that Knight behavior is happening. Usually I have him in the chat, but I don't think he's here right now. I'd be curious to know if he's fully aware that he has this behavior where sometimes your Knights are charging with a 50% movement speed buff. But you have to manually handle it for it to happen by the looks of it. Wingard Palace on the way. Now, this could be big if we get to see the new units in action because, folks, Wingard Palace got heavily overhauled. You still have the Trebuchet army, but that got altered in what it builds. And now they've added in the Wingard Rangers and Footmen, which are unique units. They are basically better versions of Longbowmen and Men-at-Arms. They have more range than Longbows in the case of the Rangers, and the Footmen, I believe they have more damage and possibly movement speed. The interesting part is also the Wingard Raiders got changed. They actually build incredibly fast now every 20 seconds, but you don't get much of a discount compared to before. I would love to see BC open up with the Wingard Raiders, though, here. Just to help them defend, because the push is coming in. It's a fast and hard one. Springals are being pushed out quickly. Remember, this is a double-speed siege workshop. Allow him to count out the Mangonels, and these choke points, look at the way he's holding. Beastie, although his army is going to be reduced to nothing, you have to question whether SS is going to have much behind this to push in with. Rams are doing whatever they can to get through the infrastructure. That really is infrastructure, folks. I mean, it's essentially just allowing him to produce units and defend, and it is actually going to be the Wingard Rangers being pumped out. Now, healing the front line, at least keeping SAS alive for the moment. But the Rams are being targeted down by the Springald. Doesn't take as much damage as it used to once upon a time, but still feeling the sting. And with only 1 Ram left, I do believe Beastie is held. SAS has nothing left. And Beastie even has the cannon emplacement. Oh, that's frustrating. It's double speed research. So now you have to get through this choke point again. You've invested everything into this. BC's weathered the storm. And now, his army's about to be bigger than yours. And better. And speaking of better, folks, here's the Wingard Raiders. So that's what they look like. I was kind of... Are you guys a little bit disappointed? I was kind of expecting, like, Robin Hood hood. I think they've got it, they're just not wearing it up. I was expecting the cowl with the hood over the top. You know, if someone from the dev team is watching, please make that change. Makes them look so much more badass. But here's the difference. 9 tile range. That's enough to make you scream 9 like it's a nightmare. Good lord. It's a Longbow hero unit from the campaign. True, actually, you're right. But still, once again, like, you've modeled the hood. Just animate it, right? Ah, that's what we're missing in Age of Empires 4. Animations. Anyone with long hair should have it, like, flow in the wind like I'm playing Tomb Raider. Hey, guys, are you noticing that this does not cost stone? What a balanced and reasonable design choice in AoE 4. I mean, admittedly, it'd be infuriating if it cost stone. I wonder if they'll eventually change that so that defensive landmarks cost stone when being repaired in combat, but wood when not. Maybe that's too confusing, but that might be like the fair way to do it. Because they've definitely made defensive landmarks a lot better with the changes. I agree, it does sound clunky. But I think we can also agree it's kind of insane that like Berkshire and White Tower can just be infinitely repaired with wood. Maybe you could argue it's like, well, you know, asymmetrical balancing to see if you get unique things. But I do have a feeling that like that element of gameplay with the English is going to make for some very annoying games on the new patch. Which is kind of crazy, because I think we can all agree a lot of games against the English are already categorized as annoying. Man, this army is getting big. And I'm getting worried. He's also got Wingard Raiders ready. Okay, yeah, this is about to get chalked fast. Flank attack coming in. SAS is like, he has nothing. He has absolutely nothing. Okay, he's got Rams, boys. Let's do it. No, I'm not even gonna lie. This is chalk. It's over. Wingard Raiders. We theory crafted its use in the patch notes. Like the first few minutes of Imperial is where it would be strongest, and you're seeing exactly why. It's Burgrave on 4 legs. And well, SAS just had his legs sweep from under him. He's out.